John McAfee was without a doubt one of the most controversial guests we've ever had on this show. We got to interview him 6 times prior to his death, and we wish he was still around for a 7th go-round. But in lieu of that, the next best thing would be to speak with someone who was with McAfee while he was on the run from the authorities. Alex Cody Foster is that guy. You may recognize him from the blockbuster Netflix special, Running with the Devil, The Wild World of John McAfee. Today, he discusses his time with John, the insane situations that he found himself in, and how he's documented it all in a brand new book. This episode has many Van Halen references in it, so you'll want to keep count of them on our episode number 654 of the Bad Crypto Podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition.
Who's bad?
Are you ready to rock? Maybe not.
I was noticing you, and I noticed that. I ate one too.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Well, if you're ready to rock, we can be the metaverse metalheads.
Oh, very nice. The metaverse metalheads. This one right here. I mean, seriously, it has about 5,150 different Van Halen references in this.
Because Running with the Devil, and we spontaneously.
Or maybe I could have said there was 1,984. Could have been 1984. We never really mentioned the album titles.
If you haven't seen the Netflix documentary Running with the Devil, The Wild World of John McAfee, you got to go see it. It's an amazing watch. Then you're going to want to get his book, the memoir, The Man Who Hacked the World, which is all about John McAfee and basically being with him while the craziness was taking place. Lots of insight from the author on this particular show, and a lot of fun to speak with him as well. He's a good guy. Humble dude.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. And then if you haven't seen the documentary yet, listen to this and then go watch the documentary, Running with the Devil. He's actually on the show talking about some interesting things, and mentioning some stuff that you maybe have never heard before. Like while watching that documentary, they talked about John McAfee, maybe even offing his very violent father. Like, what? I never heard that before. Like, there's some weird stuff going on. And this right here is this episode is one of those timeless ones.
Yeah. So see if you can count the Van Halen references, and let's get to our talk with Alex Cody Foster. Sir Lord, have you seen the documentary on Netflix yet, Running with the Devil?
Yes, I have, and I love Van Halen. Right, so this is really exciting. We get to talk to the ghostwriter who was writing for David Lee Roth. Is that correct? Something like that? Did I see this?
No. It's Running with the Devil: The Wild World of John McAfee.
I do love that song. Maybe the very best intro song on a debut album ever.
It is fantastic. You hear it and immediately recognize. Oh, there's Eddie pulling the riffs. Like, this is something totally new. But
just real quick, that one thing is that when they started it out, when the song goes, when it starts out, they literally took a car horn and then they honked it and then they slowed it down to make that song. It made that sound, which is iconic sound. So, but that has nothing to do with any of this except for the title of the
There
show.
you go. Piece of Van Halen trivia today. And maybe our guest will bring some Van Halen trivia. I don't know. His name is Alex Cody Foster. He is the ghost writer on the book that is just coming out today, which the documentary you may have seen on Netflix is based on, Running with the Devil: The Wild World of John McAfee. Alex, ACF, welcome to Bad Crypto.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Do you have any Van Halen?
Actually, I do. This is all kind of full circle for me here. I almost ghost wrote a book for a guy who was best friends with Eddie Van Halen.
Ha!
Yeah.
Nice.
I can't give his name, obviously, but I didn't take him on. He's still in my email somewhere. it didn't happen. So I guess it's a non-story,
Yeah.
but it's a tidbit.
Such a great band. Aside from that, such an interesting dude. John McAfee, such an interesting character. Like when you go back and I believe the documentary starts somewhere with some of that footage from what, 2012? Is that where it starts kicking off? And then you're going for a little while, and then there's like a 5-year delay, and then you're going back into the story back in 2019. What a great time to come back in there. So what was your initial thoughts when you're like, hey, John McAfee wants you to write a book with them? Like, how'd that go down?
And so, Travis, we're just going to jump right in. Like, I think
might as well.
May as well jump.
I might as well. Let's go ahead and jump.
Well.
Yeah.
I think we should try to insert as many Van Halen song titles into this episode and of course the conversation as possible. So yeah, Alex, go ahead and talk about that. Jump in.
I'm jumping. So John didn't actually want to hire me initially. I spoke with Jimmy Watson, his executive advisor at the time, because Jimmy. And he, I forget how we met, but we got linked up. I sent him an email and I told him that I was a ghostwriter and I was in the crypto industry and I'd worked with some of the founders in crypto. And I said, I would love to write John's story. In fact, I'd wanted to write a story ever since I was 18 and 19 years old, living on streets of Los Angeles. And that was in 2012. And that's when John went on the run in Belize. And I saw that story when I was living on the streets. It was a Wired article by Josh Davis. And I said, fuck, I'd love to write that guy's book someday. And this is before I was a writer. So fast forward, I was 25 and I wrote to Jimmy and he said, you sound like the perfect guy to do this. But every time I bring it up to boss says, fuck that, Jimmy. I will never write another book. I will never speak to a writer because I hate them. And he said, if you keep bringing this shit up, I'm going to fire you. And Jimmy was like, man, he said, man, I don't know, Alex. I don't know if he's being serious or what, but I don't think I can bring this up, but I'm going to do it strategically. All right. And I said, fine, that's great. A few months later, I got a call in the morning, 5:30 in the morning. I guess John had seen a video of when I was homeless on the streets of LA and he knew I had seen some shit. And that's what attracted him to me. And so I got a call at 5:30 in the morning and I was profiled in the Netflix documentary. But what's not in that film is the deciding factor was he said, all right, son, do you drink? I said, yeah, I mean, water, coffee, booze. I don't like milk. I mean, we're the only animal that drinks milk from another species. So that's weird to me. I love
to eat pound
cake. Yeah.
Delicious.
I like food too. And he's like, no. Do you drink booze, sir? Do you drink booze? I said, sure. And he said, what do you drink? I was like, red wine. I like Montepulciano. I like, Scotch. I like bourbon. And he shut me up and he said, all right, I'll see you Tuesday. And that was like a day later that I was supposed to arrive. And John did this all the time with people. It was all or nothing. You either arrive in 24 hours, which meant that I had to pretty much get on a plane that night because of where he was located in the US, or don't arrive at all. And so that's how it got kicked off.
Wow. So you're like, if I show up, then you really got me. I'm going to be your ghostwriter.
It felt that way, but actually what happened was I showed up and I was put under this sort of rigorous social experiment, which if I failed, he was going to can my ass immediately. So I didn't really have the job until I passed the test.
And what year was this? When did you join with him originally? Back in 2012 or was it 2019?
2018. So
2018.
He had done his whole on the run thing in 2012. He came back to America and then he pretty much went on the run for a couple of years. He lived in Oregon. He lived in Tennessee. He was in Tennessee when I met him.
So how long did it take for him to warm up to you, for him to feel comfortable? Like, okay, I can hang with this guy. I can party with this dude. I'm going to surround myself with some beautiful girls and with Alex Cody Foster, song reference.
I think that was the second trip that I took with him when we actually went on the run, allegedly from the Sinaloa cartel, who were after him because he bugged them and hacked them back in 2012. That's in the book. It's not really in the film, but he saw that I wasn't afraid. I had lost my mind back in 2012 when I was living on the streets. I got it back a couple of years later. And when I got it back, I was a totally different person and I became a writer. And ever since then, for some weird reason, I bet in a pathological sense, a therapist would have a field day with me, but I don't really feel fear. You know what I mean? I don't feel excitement either. Like everybody's hitting me up today, like, oh my God, your first book under your name came out. You know, I've got a bunch of published books, not under my name, but the first one with my name, and it just so happens to be about my life and about my time with John. But I don't feel excitement. I feel grateful. And I think that weird pathology that I have, and the fact that I was always a black sheep and I was sort of misunderstood, and I lost my mind like he did. He said he lost it for a lot longer than I did. When he realized that was a thing with me, we were in that 4-car motorcade speeding across America on the run. That's when he really started spilling his secrets. And that's when he didn't see me as an equal, but he saw me the first time.
I want to talk about, you know, you mentioned that you were homeless there for a while, living out on the summer streets. And I want to ask about that. Like, how did that sort of prepare you to become a ghostwriter? And like, and you were so you got your life together and you said, that was a crazy time. Here I am. I'm going to start writing some books about other people and ghostwrite for them. How did that even transcribe?
That's a great question, man. I mean, to be honest, I guess I've been ghostwriting pretty much my whole life. It was back in 7th grade that I started writing book reports for my brother who was in high school. And I did that until he left high school. He didn't graduate, but he just left. And I did that the whole time for him. And, you know, I read all of his high school books. So by the time I got to high school, I'd already read all the material. And I started doing it for college kids while I was in high school, for money and for beer and like weed, because I used to smoke weed back in the day. But am I allowed to talk about drugs?
You know, I used to smoke drugs and then I still do. So I think a shout out to Mitch Hedberg.
All right, thank God.
Not only are you allowed to talk about drugs, but the first time we interviewed John in 2017 for episode number 100, badco.in/100. If anybody wants to listen to it, we were on video with him and he was wrapping his arm about to shoot up.
Oh, shit.
On screen. We're like watching going, what in the world?
It was one of those like, because he's putting the tourniquet on his arm and he's like squeezing it. He's like pumping it up, getting ready to, and then I think he realizes like, well, I'm on video. And then he didn't actually do it, but he did put the tourniquet on. And I don't know if that was just shock value, right? Or we were going to see him dancing in the streets. It was going to be a wild show either way.
It was going to be the latter, to be honest with John. He did that. That you said that was episode 100?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What year was this?
Yeah. 2017, I think, or early 18. So he did 100, 200 and what was it, like 86?
Yeah, we thought he was going to be arrested or Epstein.
Yeah. So we're like, we're not going to wait till 300. We're going to have him on. And then he did virtual blockchain week, and there was one other, and we've had more recently. We've had Janice on the show.
If it was 2018, it's kind of funny. I was the one that got him on that show with you, Travis. I hit you up and I set it up via email. It's kind of a small world. But
it is a small world, so we're very grateful. Here we are, full circle, like crazy right here.
Yeah. So I'm going to pull that up right here, and you can see that badco.in/100 is March 20th, 2018. So we probably interviewed him just a few days before for this episode. And man, there's a picture. It was crazy.
He was totally unchained. It was
My
crazy.
God.
Like,
he looks rough.
When he was rough. Dude, he was going to do heroin. Like in the interview, to this day, and then Joel's like, dude, we got to edit that out. I was like, no, dude, that's going to be the coolest thing that you see John McAfee's doing. Like, and I think we did edit it out just because it was like, this was not PG or whatever. But I was like, dude, that was crazy.
That's pure John right there. But to answer your question, sorry, I don't think I did. To round it out, after ghostwriting in, grammar school and then in high school, and I hitchhiked across America and I became homeless on the streets of LA, ran out of money, came from a poor family. No one could bail me out. So I was just living on the streets, and I decided I want to tell a story of all these people who lived on the streets. There are 51,340 homeless people I read in LA.
I read it was 5150. 5150 was what I thought was the number.
Who's your source?
I'd be wrong. Van Halen's song lists.
That's never mind. That's reputable. We'll stick with that one.
You missed your moment. So I want to talk about his mental health, right? Because like you can see here he is doing copious amounts of drugs, doing a ridiculous amount of alcohol, and then all of his girls around. He's like, I ain't talking about love, but let's get together and let's have a nice crazy time. Like, what was the craziest thing that you saw that you can talk about?
Shit, that's part of a top 10 list, really. Let me think. Can I just go through the list?
Go through the list. We love that.
He's saying you really got me with that question there, Trav.
That's what he did say. Change the visual so he's in the middle, and we can turn this one into a fancy little social media.
Look at that, so fancy.
He's got a top 10.
Sandwich me here. Top 10. Well, I might not.
Craziest shit you saw from John McAfee in the 2+3 years that you were working with him.
Okay. One, probably when we were on the run from the Sinaloa cartel, I didn't believe him. He interrogated a girl and made her cry in a McDonald's parking lot.
What's her name? Jamie?
Actually, her name was Lizzie Borden, which didn't actually help her situation. John had a field day with that. He was like, "Oh, so you're the famous axe murderer, huh? Lizzie Borden, is that if that's even your real name?" And she was like,
"Yeah, I'm the one."
It was actually really sad, though. I mean, he made the poor girl cry because he and the security guys were grilling her, thinking she was a spy.
No. Here's the eruption. There you go, John, going off on the girl, making her cry. It's horrible.
So there's that. Number two, allegedly, I spoke to the head of the Sinaloa cartel in Central America.
Sinaloa cartel. What is the Sinaloa cartel, for those who don't know?
They're the most feared, most dangerous drug cartel in the world. And, the head of it, I don't know if he's still the head, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman.
El Chapo?
Yeah, El Chapo.
We're going to get him on the show sometime and chat with him about the crypto space and be like, hey, El Chapo, I got some Chapo stick.
Oh, geez. Well, like I said in the film, if there's one thing I know, you don't fuck with the cartel. And that's why I played it pretty safe in this book, without naming names. But yeah, that was a weird time talking to the head of the cartel in Central America. The guy was supposedly connected to El Chapo himself because I didn't believe John. So John got him on the phone. He said, "Tell him your name." And he told me his name, and I looked him up. I had the phone in front of me, and yeah, all these news articles, there's like a kingpin indictment against him and crazy shit.
Wait, El Chapo? He got El Chapo on the phone?
No, the other guy.
The other guy. I was like, dude, wait, hold on. I'm going to text El Chapo real quick. Like, what the hell?
He was in prison. I mean, he probably had access to a cell phone if he could burrow under the prison.
Okay. Number 3 right now.
Number 3 was being kidnapped in Barcelona. That's not in the movie. Against my will, we were kidnapped by who I think was the Eastern European mob or something. It was a very sketchy situation. It's sort of a long story, but to sum it up, I was in this motorcade, bunch of guys with guns, driving to an undisclosed location, supposedly a villa in Barcelona, but they took me an hour outside of Barcelona. And I kept saying
put a bag over your head, burlap bag.
They didn't. I expected them to, but they didn't. They told me,
"Hey, hey guys, where's the bag? Aren't you gonna bag me?
Where are the refreshments? Where are my refreshments?"
I was like, I thought we were gonna have a Sunday afternoon in the park, and all of a sudden we're getting arrested. We're getting accosted by the Eastern European mob. Like, you don't want them after you. You don't want El Chapo after you. Like, he's pissing off everybody. You don't want the government after you. John McAfee pissed off everyone.
He did. He had a lot of friends too, though. We can't forget that.
Mm-hmm.
He had a lot of friends.
Well, he was very loved for his honesty, right? For being authentic, who he was, and standing up for crypto and decentralization and against the systems. I mean, he was a rebel's rebel. I mean, the dude spit blood and fire every time he talked, and it was just like that drew a lot of people to him.
And that's why I was drawn to him initially. But when I uncovered some of the darker elements of John's psyche and history, it just put me off. There's certain things. I'm an open-minded guy. I've worked with. I don't know if I'm allowed to say. Actually, I am allowed to say. My name's going to be on the cover. I've worked with drug kingpins before. I currently am working with one. I've worked with liars, thieves, murderers. I've worked with, Ross Ulbricht, who created Silk Road. I've worked with really wonderful, good people too. They're not all bad, but I like to reserve judgment. And that's one thing that has aided me as a ghostwriter is when I lost my mind, it kind of shattered my ego. And to be a great ghostwriter, you got to set your own bullshit aside. You got to set your ego leave it at the door so that you can get in the shoes of this person and tell their story through their eyes, you know? And I had to do that. And I did that very effectively with John. But there are a few lines you don't cross with me. He
What
crossed
are
a
those?
couple of them.
What are those lines?
One of them is do
Tell me. I'll wait.
Do not murder innocent people and don't rape people. And throughout my time with John, I had reason to believe that he had done both.
So do you feel like he was responsible for the neighbor?
Yeah, for sure. In fact, it's towards the end of my book. I haven't actually talked about it publicly, but
this is a premiere right here, gang. First time.
All I really am allowed to say at this point is that someone reached out to me after the Netflix film dropped. Actually, it was the very next morning the Netflix film dropped, and there was a guy who used to work with John in Belize, and he said, "Hey, I was there that night. I know exactly what happened, and I can tell you the full story. I've never told anybody."
Wow.
And he said, "Can I get you on a call?" And I said, "Yes." And I talked to him for an hour and 45 minutes, record the conversation, and I discuss the details of that conversation towards the end of this book.
Okay, well, clearly we're going to tell everybody to go get the book, but I'm going to ask you for that one story right here as the teaser, because it's going to be the thing that everybody's going to be like, I got to read the rest of what he's got to say.
And I'm actually surprised, Joel. I'm surprised that after Belize, when he was on the run, like he didn't end up going to Panama or some other place.
You're the one, you son of a bitch. You got it in. I was going to get that.
Why I got to be a son of a bitch?
Yeah.
I'm the one.
I don't know. Stay frosty, Travis.
Okay, I'm gonna try.
So yeah, go ahead. Talk, Alex.
You want the answer? So it's sort of a long story. I'm going to have to give you the short version.
Yeah, abridge it for us.
Sure. Essentially, this guy was there. John admitted to him what had happened because, you know, John's dogs were poisoned. So this man went with John. No, sorry. John was with the girls and stuff. He used to spend on average like 1 to 2 hours a night with each girl in their various rooms on the property. That's what the guy said.
Daddy.
Oh, big time. And so at some point,
good Lord, how much stamina can you? Like, all right, I'm going to spend an hour with you, and then I'm going to come over here and tap that ass.
I mean,
he was like, she's the woman. Then he was like, you know, I think I'm hot for teacher. And he was
talking about love. I'm
about them.
He
was like, because everybody wants some.
Everybody wants some when you're John McAfee, for sure.
He had a librarian phase too. That was a funny story. So he his dogs were poisoned. He was really pissed. Obviously, it wouldn't be. And anyway, my guy, he said that he saw tracks in the sand, and they led to Gregory Falls' house. He followed the tracks in the sand from where all the dogs were poisoned and vomiting blood and dying. And he followed them all the way to Greg's house. And he told John, hey, look, I'm not saying he did it, but I found the tracks leading right to his house. And it's around the same time the prints are still fresh, you know, because the waves had receded, so the sand was wet. You could tell that the prints were fresh, which indicated that it was in the same time frame. And therefore, John was pissed. You know, John thought it was Greg Fall who did it. And so anyway,
you went vigilante on their ass right there. What was the deal around what was the deal about Greg Fall's parrot? Because he had a parrot.
Yeah,
it's something. Did that dog die? Did the dog kill the parrot or something? I don't remember.
I didn't really hear much about the parrot except that one of the dogs freaked out and tried to get at it, and it upset Greg because, you know, that was his best friend right there on his shoulder. So he's like, "What the fuck, man? Like, get out of here!"
He was a true pirate there, hanging out in Belize with his parrot and stuff.
I guess so. I don't really know what happened to the parrot. That's a good question. But so the end of that story is that John was always with the girls every night that the guy worked with John. It was like about a month at this point he was working with him. And the night of Gregory Falls' murder, he wasn't there. John was completely unaccounted for, which was strange. And anyway, he got on the phone with a guy. Before Greg was murdered that morning. He said, I don't fucking care where you are. You get on like Tropicana Air and you get your ass here right now. Right fucking now. And he hung up. And, you know, the next day, Eddie McCoy shows up. And my guy's introduced to him, says hello. And anyway, my guy said that the next morning after Gregory Fall was murdered, he saw this commotion. And John was playing in the pool with Samantha and like laughing and just like throwing a, beach ball or something, having a grand old time while all this crazy commotion was going on next door. And my guy went over to him and he said, "Hey, John, I think something happened to that guy, Greg," and John kind of like lowered his head and he was like, "Yeah, Eddie was just supposed to scare him. He wasn't supposed to shoot him." And, my guy went wide eyed. He's like, "I'm going to go to my room now." So he went to his room.
Wow.
Eventually he got arrested along with some of the other members of the household. John went on the run, etc. And I think his name was Kashen, told my guy that not only had John ordered the hit, but he had also ordered the hit on an unnamed American expat in the south of Belize. So it was yet another guy who John had killed. And then there's David Middleton. There was, in my book profile that John admitted to me, there's a White Lobster guy. White Lobster is cocaine that washes up on shore, because that's how they do some of their drug runs. They tie them to buoys, kilos and kilos upon cocaine. If they get dislodged, they wash up on shore, and villagers or something take anything, then they're dead. And some White Lobster guy thought John had stolen his cocaine, which is oxymoronic because John was a millionaire and had all the cocaine he could want. So John had to have him killed as well. And then
my God, how many people do you think met their maker as a result of John McAfee?
If everything told to me is true, it would be 5. And that is if John did in fact kill his father, which was told to me. I'm not going to say that I proved that. I didn't, but it was told to me in confidence. And so that would be 5 people altogether.
Get around John and you're like, somebody get me a doctor.
My God.
And so you really got me here on this one. I'm a little shooken up. So I guess technically 6 because he offed himself, right?
Allegedly.
Which leads to a great question. We had Janice on the show. I had so many questions actually, because Janice was hardly in the documentary, and I learned about this other woman, Samantha Herrera, that he was hanging out with and that you were along with, and like so. All right. First question then is about the girls. In fact, I'm going to share for those who are watching the video. This is the article that I pulled up here on primetimer.com. Netflix John McAfee doc, filmmakers accused of questionable tactics, because in the film, Samantha, and you could see on the video for those of you who are watching, which shows as one of his girlfriends, at the end of it, she says she got a call from Texas from from John, and saying that he was still alive. This was after he was allegedly Epstein. But I guess she said this was taken out of context. So first question is about that. And then your opinion, because Janice says they've not seen the body yet. Is there a chance that he's still alive and just in hiding? So
about that, I'm not really sure how you can take that quote out of context. When you ask someone explicitly, do you think he's still alive? And then she says explicitly, I received a call weeks after his death. I mean, the context is already there. The context came out of her own mouth. So I'm really not sure what the argument is there.
Well, what she said is here, I got a call from Texas from someone saying it was John, who said he was still alive.
Okay, I could see that.
I told the filmmakers that I didn't know if it was him or someone posing as him. I said that on the film, but it wasn't used. So
he got a call from someone in Texas, not a call from John.
Claiming they were John. And I'm thinking, you know what? You would know his voice.
Right.
How would you not know?
And he wouldn't be in Texas. He wouldn't be in Texas, would he?
No, of course not. He would not go back to America, the one place that he was worried about getting extradited to. He would be in the Far East somewhere, living like a king.
But the body has not been turned over yet.
Well, I'll tell you.
Janice says, yeah, what's going on here?
I'll give you some more context there. And, if she had any doubts whatsoever, I don't think I would have brought it up myself. In the weeks after John died, I got a Telegram notification. It said, John McAfee has joined Telegram. And I thought, what the fuck? Like,
I saw that. That was so weird.
Yeah, because I still had John's number. And I wrote to the guy, woman, whomever, and I said, hey, you're using a dead guy's phone right now. Who are you? And he read the message, didn't respond. I think it was a few hours later, the account was deleted. So I thought maybe that was Janice, who had the the phone. Maybe it was the feds. Maybe it was John. I don't know, and I'll never know, and I'm okay with not knowing.
So you don't know. You don't have feelings. Maybe he's dead. Maybe he's not.
I have feelings. Yeah, I believe he's dead for sure.
You do.
Yeah, I mean, he died hours after it was announced that he was going to be extradited to America, where he was facing serious charges. And given what he knew, at least what he told me that he knew, he probably could have started singing like a bird and gotten a commuted sentence. And maybe certain people were afraid that he was going to do that, so they had to.
But allegedly, there was a deadman switch anyway. That all this information that you know his team has all this and what's been released. So was that all bogus? He didn't have anything.
We talked about his dead man switch a few times. In fact, it's in the book too. And he mentioned, I asked him, after he told me some crazy things, like he had built a back door in his software to spy on everyone. I asked him, John, why don't you release this information? He said, because if I do, I'm a dead man. But when I die,
I'm DOA, baby. Yeah.
Cool. He said, but when I do die, whether it's by accident or it's natural causes or it's not an accident, he said this information will be released, Alex. He told me it was in law offices, like 5 different law offices all around the world, with trusted lawyers who are, going to bring that material forward. And he said it was with other people as well. And he didn't tell me who, but we talked about it at one point, and he did mention, I said to him, why are you afraid? These people are going to kill you. And he said, well, Alex, what if there's this tactical operation and everybody, hits my dead man switches, my locations at once? They take them, they get the word out. They say, yep, 15 minutes. We got all of them. Let's take them out and then kill me. He said, I won't know what the fuck is going on. I won't know. It won't be, nobody's going to let me know. If they get all of them at once, if they take them all out at once, then I'm a dead man.
Wow. Gotta watch out for that mean street. I tell you what, watching this thing, and again, as Joel said, you got to watch this documentary. The book just came out today, and the documentary, about an hour and a half or so. Take a look at it, watch it, and tap into what's going on, because John McAfee was on a wild ride, folks. He was on a wild ride.
Here's the book, by the way. The book is titled Different: The Man Who Hacked the World, A Ghostwriter's Descent into Madness with John McAfee. Release date, November 15th, 2022. I don't know who else has bought it, but I'm going to go ahead and support right now. You guys don't need to see my password and login and stuff, but I'm going to go ahead and pick up a copy here and have it shipped to Puerto Rico, because it sounds like an amazing read.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Maybe I'm number one.
Who bought it?
I think you're. I don't know. You are an atomic punk. I'll say that.
It's been on pre-sale for a couple months, and I guess it's in the top 5% of sales or something that they've ever had.
Wow!
And just on
Doesn't
pre-sale.
surprise me.
Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's
that they've ever had.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
In the history of the publisher. So I guess it's selling.
Nicely done, brother.
I guess so. I don't know. We'll see if it sucks. Maybe it does. Who knows? I don't know.
I'm sure it doesn't.
Yeah, I'm sure it doesn't. Anything else you'd like folks to know about John McAfee and this crazy journey you were on?
Shit, I don't know. That's a big question.
We like big questions here at the Bad Crypto Podcast, because we're human beings. Humans being. Isn't that the title?
Humans being. Yeah,
humans being.
How many have we covered? We've got at least 20 references.
I don't know. Somebody out there is counting. Maybe we'll send it
you guys need like a ticker every time the reference is made. With like Eddie Van Halen's face popping up, like rocking out. You should do that.
Jumping off stage, swinging across in Panama.
Well, I can answer that question with a hopefully half decent answer. So John is one of those rare people in the world who is unquantifiable. You can't ever solve the mystery of John. I spent 430 pages trying to do so, and I spent 6 months with him and had more time with him than any other writer or representative of the media. And I still barely scratched the surface, because he is so enigmatic. Was so brilliant, was so disturbed. And, he's probably going to be an enduring mystery. And I think that's why people, have flocked to the film and why people are buying the book, because they love mysteries. And you got one here with John.
That is for sure. So when we had Janice, we've assumed that Janice is his wife. Now, I don't know if legally, at least, by the state, if that's true or not. but I did not realize that he had this other girlfriend. And like, what were the dynamics of that? Were they there at the same time, or was there a crossover where he was no longer with Samantha and he was with Janice?
So that was before my time, but I know the story, and this was 2012. John was with, 5 or 6 younger girls at that period of time, and he went to Miami, and he was at the News Cafe, and he met Janice.
He was on top of the world, man. 4 or 5 women at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
He was having a ball, but he met Janice, and he I don't know if you would call it love, but they had something that I've never.
Why
really
can't this
seen
be
before.
love? I want to love all 5 at the same time. You know what? God bless you, John McAfee.
He saw her. He was like, "Oh, pretty woman."
Mm-hmm. And you got to understand, and this relates to the question earlier about Sam, is he had promised Sam the world. He promised her uncle he was going to marry her. He promised her he was going to marry her. She came from from poverty, right? She wanted a life and a future with him, and then he met Janice, and he threw it all away. He didn't ever go back to Sam, and so.
Right.
That's what happened, and I think it's partly why she brought that up in the movie, is she wanted to hold on to some last little piece of John that she had, even if it was fabricated, and maybe it was like a slight to Janice, like he called me, not you, like he called me saying he wanted to run away with me, but in my opinion, John left a lot of people. He abandoned a lot of people. He actually did hurt a lot of people, and she was one of them.
Left a lot of people wanting him to finish what he started, and he was not doing that. Wow. Yeah. I tell you what, it's a wild story. And now you got a book coming out today, and you can learn a little bit more about that. I would say bottoms up, brother.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the documentary yet, go to Netflix and watch Running with the Devil. It's an amazing documentary. You can see Alex's website at alexfosterghostwriter.com, and then the book, The Man Who Hacked the World. See, there's the proof. You purchased a hardcover format of this today. Nice. A Ghostwriter's Descent into Madness with John McAfee. And just a quick note here that as a ghostwriter for many years, you have a course, ghostwritinguniversity.com, if you want to find out how to get paid to write words and do stuff. Alex has got that here as well. So recommend you guys go check it out. There is definitely big business in writing for other people. I should know because I've used ghostwriters multiple times for my words as well. You can take the concepts from the subject of the book and have somebody who's more disciplined and better at paragraphs and punctuation put it all together for you, weave a narrative. And at least on my books, I always go in and make sure, yep, I would say it like that, or no, I wouldn't mean that. I would never say that. This is what I said. Make sure that it's accurate. But it saves a lot of time, especially if, I can pound out an article in no time. Sit me down at my laptop and you want 1,000 words on whatever the topic is. I'm like, but tell me I got to write 50,000 words. And I just I want to shoot myself. I just,
that's why you were talking about it. Yeah, you were talking about recording your voice, interviewing with a person. They're actually your words. Like you transcribe your words. Here are my words, put them together coherently, and then I'll go back. That's the smart way to do it. I actually, when I wrote my book, I used Google Docs and spoke my book in, and then it translated it really easily, and then I went back in and edited it.
Wow. I learned that from Alex Mendozian, internet marketer, many years ago. He called it writing at the speed of sound, where you dictate your book and then transcribe and then work through it. So, Alex, what would you say to aspiring ghostwriters out there?
It's the best kept secret of the literary industry. 80% of nonfiction books are written by people like me, and it's an amazing job. It doesn't really feel like a job. You travel the world, you meet fascinating people, you make really good money. If you're great at what you do, you make $250,000 a year, $500,000 a year. I just partnered with James Patterson's co-author, and we're going to start spearheading a new fiction series and try to emulate James Patterson's writing empire.
Dude, he's amazing. He's amazing. I read the John Lennon book that went in that whole process of John Lennon, and then parallel universe was Mark David Chapman, and it talked about how John Lennon was going through the Beatles and all this stuff, and then at the same time it'd be like a foof, and then here's Mark David Chapman, and then they collided on the street of it. Dude, it was one of the best books that I've sort of read as a nonfiction, sort of a real story about a sad topic, because I wish John Lennon would have been around these last 40 years. Also, I wish Jimi Hendrix would have been around too. Everybody else can die, but those two are really good.
Shit, I didn't
Wow.
even know about that book. I got to check it out.
That's cold.
That's good.
Everybody else can die. What do you live on Main Street, Trav, or something?
I do. Everybody's going to die eventually, Joel. I don't know if you know that, but eventually nobody makes it off of this rock life. Hey, Alex, that is true. I want to say thank you. This interview was not great, but it was good enough.
Good. As long as it wasn't bad, you know, in the name. So I figured it would be, but no,
and Alex,
great.
I just want to say pound cake.
I will eat some.
I didn't even count the number of Van Halen references. There's a lot. Maybe you guys can write us, badcryptopodcast@gmail.com, and let us know how many songs we referenced. Feel free to list them all out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or tweet us. I think that there's at least 20.
There's
25.
at least 20. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot. We pulled them out.
Some of them you probably don't even they might not have said, because we were pretty smooth on how we said them. Others was obvious that we were dropping a reference, but that's just the way it is.
Who was
this
better?
Podcast as is.
David Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar?
Oh, I think both of them have their place.
You have to pick one.
Well, it would always be David Lee Roth, because Van Halen wasn't Van Halen until. David Lee Roth was there, and like those first 7 albums were amazing.
Yeah.
And they dropped, or 6 albums or whatever it is, they just dropped them. Boom, boom, boom. 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83. Almost every year they dropped one, which is weird. They were never number one until 1984, or they was almost number one with 1984. They didn't quite, because of like Michael Jackson or something. But then Van Hagar happens, and then they get a bunch of number ones. I think that's just a result of all the hard work they put in. Now, I do think that Dave got his big ego in place, and he was having a lot of fun making these videos, and he says, you know what, I want to go do my own thing and be Hollywood Dave and do all these videos. And then he just had a really big ego, and I could see why they kicked him out, because his head was huge. Even whenever they brought him back after they let Hagar go, and he came back for a tour, and he goes, this is my night. Hey, it's all about me. And they're like, no, dude, it's not. And they kicked him out again, and they got Gary Cherone. And then finally they brought him back after Dave, his ego was released a bit. But, dude, best showman, one of the best, if not the best showman in rock and roll, David Lee Roth. Now, I do think that Mick Jagger, amazing, probably the best. But holy shit, like Van Halen's as a lead guy. Whew.
Yeah, I think Sammy was a suitable replacement, but Van Hagar was not better than the original Van Halen.
They maybe sold more albums during that time, or had higher ratings, but overall, David Lee Roth is spectacular.
So as long as we were talking about John McAfee, we still have in the Bad Crypto Nifty Club some of these exclusive classic clips from our first interview with John McAfee. There's only 7 or 5 of each of these, and you can own a classic clip. John speaking on the threat of artificial intelligence. These are video clips. Cell phone security, the magic of Bitcoin, $1 million Bitcoin. If you go to badcrypto.uncut.fm, you need to own the Bad Crypto membership in order to have access to these. Oops, and I'm showing our show notes right there. That's a little behind the scenes. The one that you're looking for is this right here, the Bad Crypto Nifty Club, for $2.21, which is 0.002 ETH. Pick that up, and then you get access to our other NFTs as well. And that'd be fun for you guys to have.
And I'd say keep an eye on that space, because there's going to be some new stuff that's going to be popping up in that as Bad Crypto community grows into a collective, as we're working with those guys at Uncut. Hopefully they're able to deliver on some of the things that they're talking about. If so, that space could get a lot cooler, and we'll be able to do a lot more fun stuff over there. So
we've also been checking the inbox of our voicemail and have downloaded a bunch of voicemails, which we're going to be playing in an upcoming episode. If you want to be in that fan show, then call us and leave us a voicemail. Take down this number of the Bad Crypto hotline, 708-885-9030. 708-885-9030. 9030. And if you didn't write it down there, hit the rewind thing on your Spotify or iTunes. It goes back 15 seconds and you can hear it again. Leave us a voicemail. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Tell us a corn joke. Tell us to stay bad. Whatever it is you want to do. Ask us a question. Give us feedback. 708-885-9030. And maybe you will make it in for your big moment on a future episode of the Bad Crypto Podcast. Won't that be fun?
There you go. Your moment in the sun. You know what? We really appreciate you tuning in. Leave a review if you can. If you haven't already, because the algorithms love the reviews, and so do we, especially when they're funny. So if they're 4 stars, 5 stars,
10
keep
stars,
it high.
80 stars.
10 stars.
It's all good. As long as you review and as long as you stay back.
Who's bad?
The Bad Crypto Podcast is a production of Bad Crypto LLC. The content of the show, the videos, and the website is provided for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. It's not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, or trading advice of any kind. You shouldn't make any decisions as to finances, investing, trading, or anything else based on this information without undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional financial advisor. Please understand that the trading of Bitcoins and alternative cryptocurrencies have potential risks involved. Anyone wishing to invest in any of the currencies or tokens mentioned on this podcast should first seek their own independent professional financial advisor. Have you seen Junior's grades? So good.
Cradle will rock.
So good.
Cradle will rock.
I remember hearing those songs when they were new because I was listening to AM to FM radio I remember when Van Halen first came out. I'm like, what is this rocks? And then you would just look forward. If Van Halen's got a new album, you'd hear. And I got to tell you, when Jump came out, I was not impressed. I thought, oh, they're going synth like everybody else in the 80s. And Jump is fun, but it doesn't rock the way earlier stuff does.
Well, I think that was just him getting a little Hollywood. They started thinking about what can we do for our videos, what can we do to remain relevant. And think about it, they've been doing it for a while. Then, you're not guaranteed to have a super long career anytime you're but they were launching one. What I loved about it, there's a really good documentary on Amazon Prime about Van Halen. It talks about those early years. So Van Halen got together in 71 or 72, and they were just playing backyards and, doing stuff on the Hollywood Strip and stuff for a long time. And then actually Gene Simmons of Kiss was going to sign them, and they put together a record and demo, and he took it to New York, and they didn't like it. Whoever he took it to didn't like Van Halen, and so sorry, they didn't get signed. But then later they got signed, and their whole album, that Van Halen 1 is just spectacular. If you've never heard it before, put it on Spotify or on your YouTube, put your headphones on and just listen to that album for the first time. It'll blow you away. It's such a great debut album.
Eddie Van Halen, rest in peace. You are officially unchained.